This is attorney Andy Marcantel and attorney Rachel Moss from the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm. We're coming to you straight from the NRA convention here in Dallas, and we have a very special guest to kick off this convention. His name is Yehuda Remer, but you may know him better as the Pew Pew Jew. How you doing, Yehuda?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome to our show, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah, number one of the day of the show. I'm honored.
The first thing I want to ask you about is like 30 seconds before we started filming, you inducted us into the prestigious, I don't know if the camera can get that there, you inducted us into the prestigious Jewish Space Laser Force.
Yes.
Can you tell us what this entails? I mean, you know, before we sign up, we want to know what we're getting into here.
Yeah, we're enlisted.
Well, for women, you're good. You have to get circumcised. So that's, you know. But no, I'm a very self-deprecating person, and I'm not afraid to use anti-Semitic tropes to kind of make fun of the anti-Semitic tropes. So, you know, the whole Jewish space laser that, you know, majority Green Taylor, whatever her name is, said.
Right,
you know,
right.
It's like, yeah, if you're going to say stupid things like that, I'm going to own it and make money off of your stupidity. So Jewish Space Laser Force, I thought it'd be funny to make patches and give them out to people, and so far it's been great.
Yeah, one of my favorite comedians and filmmakers of all time, Mel Brooks, a very prominent Jewish funny man, used to always talk about this. He's like, when your enemies make fun of you, the best thing you can do is take what they're saying and throw it right back in their face.
No, 100%. I mean, on my website, you can actually go, I have a Jewish conspiracy theories page on my website where you can actually, it's for sale. It's sold out, of course, but a Jewish space laser for $1 million. You can get a tinfoil yarmulke. I mean, it's all sold out. Like, you can't actually get them, but I have this whole page. I'm going to be adding horns. I mean, I'm going to be.
It's amazing.
It's when you can make fun of yourself and it takes away the power from anyone who will try to, you know, bother you. To the point where on social media I get a lot of anti-Semitism, and for some reason, people love Holocaust jokes and they throw them my way, usually maliciously. But I have designed a meme of a picture of Hitler saluting, and I've had it up to here with your insensitive jokes. Like, how do you come back from that?
Exactly.
Right? You can't.
Yeah.
So
You take the power away.
You take the power away, and I'm okay doing that through humor. And I mean, I love Mel Brooks. I love Jackie Mason. These guys are some of my heroes.
Most of whose like movies you could not make today.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I use their sense of humor to help me cope in today's world and also make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should. You know, I wish more people were like that these days and had a little bit thicker skin and were willing to, you know, have a little bit of sense of humor about some of these
I mean,
subjects.
what's that line you see everywhere, right? The difference between you and me is you find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want to talk to you about some of the things you got going on. You mentioned you're doing a book signing today. We figured we'd let you plug your book and talk about that.
So I have a book called Spot Ghillie, and it's a Where's Waldo for gun owners. You get to spot the sniper, and then there's 10 other characters you get to search for. You get to search for a gun bunny, ATF agent, and an angry RSO. You get to search for Brandon Herrera. I called him like, hey, can I use your likeness? He's like, yeah, no problem.
That's awesome.
Ava Flanell. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
No.
So she's also big influencer in the industry, and it's just a fun book. There's 14 different images you get to search through, and one of the companies, Avidity Arms, sponsored one of the pages. So I'm going to do a book signing at 1:00.
That's really cool.
At their booth, yeah.
We'll throw the link in the description to his website. You guys can go and buy his books. There's also really another really funny book that you showed us right before the podcast.
Yeah, that book was great because I think the rollout or the build-up was more fun. And I'll tell you why. I had this idea for the book. It's called Bullet Points, Reasons Why America Should Embrace Common Sense Gun Law. And
it's full of wonderful, wonderful content.
Yeah, it's shocking that people in the industry are all pro the book. I mean, it's amazing how it's fantastic. But what happened is I have a friend named Jill McDaniel who runs a website called Mom at Arms. And she does amazing investigative journalism. And I call her up. I'm like, hey, this is my idea for the book. Don't come after me. Because I'm terrified of her, right? I'm like, don't come after me. She's like, what can I do to help? So she started plugging things on social media, like, has the Pew Pew Jew sold out? Is he the new gun industry's Benedict Arnold? And she started, and even though she knew exactly what the book was,
a switcheroo.
so she was like building up like all this, and then people were calling me. They're like, "What is going on? Are you a redcoat? What is happening?" and the next thing I know, the book was released, and there's a lot of people who got it right off the bat and loved it. Of course, you have your FUDs who would buy the book and then post negative reviews saying, "We understand what he was doing, but it wasn't funny." I'm like, no, I wrote the book for you guys because you guys don't have a sense of friggin' humor.
Should we spoil what's in the book? Or you should
here,
just
here.
show a reading. How about?
I'll let you do it. You do it.
Exclusive reading.
Yeah, let me do a live exclusive reading. So this is from Bullet Points. It is Yehuda's book, Reasons Why America Should Embrace Common Sense Gun Laws. All right, let's see what he has to say. This worries me. I think maybe he's turned to the other team here. All right, so this is an excerpt from Chapter 3. It's called Braces and Bump Stocks. Page 34. Page 35. 36. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So I love that you did it kind of as a switcheroo, though, because you built it up like you're...
Yeah, I built it up, and there were people in the gun industry, like owners of gun companies and people who are like movers and shakers, other podcasters and influencers are like, what is this news we're hearing? And I'm like, do you trust me? They're like, yeah. I'm like, so just everything will come to light, and I promise you I didn't sell out. And they're like, all right. And then like the minute the book comes out, I mean, the night it came out, I remember I lost like 3,000 followers, like within like 10 minutes.
Did they even read it?
No, they didn't. And what's interesting is on Amazon and my website, it literally says with an asterisk, this book is mostly blank for those that can't take a joke. But people literally don't judge a book by its cover. They literally judge the book, and totally worth it, because it's to see people's reactions, especially when there's someone they look at the cover and you just see them get like a scowl, and they're like, oh, okay, and like I'm like, just read the first paragraph, read the first, and they open it and then they just lose it and they laugh and they're like, where can I get one?
Yeah.
So it's always fun to see people's reaction with the book.
Love
right.
that.
I love this because it just feels like you're doing things in this community that no one else is doing. Like I was talking with Andy right before we started filming today about how much I love the fact that you do children's books. I haven't seen that before in the Second Amendment community.
So my first book to come out was called Safety On. It's an introduction to the world of firearms for children. And I wrote that book because when I bought my first gun, it was a Glock 19 Gen 3. It was in Los Angeles where I grew up. And I was married, living in an apartment with my wife and baby. And I bought the gun. And one day we were by my parents, and my younger brother was like, hey, man, when are we going to go shoot your Glock? And, you know, Jewish parents, right? My parents had like a full-on, like, we're talking about not even a meltdown, like a Chernobyl. Like, it was nuclear, right? Wow. They wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't. And when they did, you know, they called me irresponsible. They called me all these names. And I finally realized, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to be a gun owner, not only do I have to know guns, right? It's not just a matter of like, I'm a gun owner. I need my children to understand about gun safety. So I went to the NRA website and I found the Eddie Eagle program, which is a great program. Unfortunately, all it does is talk about what to do if you find a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be, when we know there's so much more to gun safety.
Right.
So I went to Amazon. I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a book for my kids so I can read it to them. Nothing. There was nothing. And I was the nerd in high school who had like a little notebook, and I always used to write poems. I loved writing for as long as I can remember. So I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to write a book. So I wrote my first book really to kind of educate my kids, but also to shut my parents up.
Yeah. Sure.
From there, it took me 5.5 years to get it published because no publishing company would touch it. No literary agent would touch it. It's a book pro-guns, pro-kids. And from there, finally in 2017, I got a small publishing company. It hit the market, which I was terrified because I didn't know if it would be accepted in the gun world.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, this is a cutthroat industry, right? Like if you do one mistake that makes you seem anti-gun, you know, your life in the industry is over.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going to happen, and
what in it could have been interpreted as anti-gun?
I don't think anything.
What were you worried
nothing.
about?
I think I was just worried about. I mean, this is my first book. I think I was more worried about would it be successful? Would it be accepted? Would I be ridiculed? The person I am right now that you're talking to was not the person I was 7 years ago. I was a behind-the-scenes guy. I hated the spotlight. I hated public speaking. I didn't do anything.
I would have never guessed
Yeah,
that.
I didn't do
talking to
anything.
you today.
But when my first book came out, it hit me. I was like, not only do I have to get over my fear of public speaking, I have to get over my fear of being on television and stuff like that, because I've been on Fox News, I've been on ABC News talking about different things, gun-related, Jewish-related, and I have to get over all these fears, and I did. And now I've become just the person you see where, people say, can you speak at this event? I'm like, yeah, no problem, and it's great. And it's also helped me with my sense of humor. I've always had a very dark sense of humor, but now I'm outwardly dark sense of humor. Makes people really uncomfortable,
And
which is fantastic.
self-deprecating too. is
Very
what I've got.
very self-deprecating. I tell people when I'm at a booth, I'm about to do a booth appearance at a company called Bullet Bloom, and the owner Bullet Bloom, she's a good friend of mine. She's a pretty girl, and whenever someone comes to the booth, they're like they look at me. I'm like, oh, I'm just here as eye candy, And my friend Bridget, she's like, wait, what? So self-deprecating, right? Like, I get it, right? This is who I am. You can like me, you can hate me. I really don't care. That's it. That's me.
On the subject of your children's book, the reason why we thought that was so cool, I feel like a lot of people who rally against guns and gun rights, and people want to take away people's rights regarding and surrounding the Second Amendment, a lot of it comes out of ignorance, a lot of it comes out of fear, and a lot of that starts when you're a child, right? It's like, for people who don't grow up around guns, it's this mystical, mystifying, scary thing, right? That's why I think it's so important to start as young as you can, teaching gun safety, good gun practices, everything like that. At that point, it's just another aspect of your world that's not this scary, mysterious thing.
No, 100%. And that's also one of the reasons why, I wanted my kids to be involved with it, is they need to know. I knew it was going to be part of my life, so that means it's going to have to be part of their life. And that doesn't mean necessarily that they have to enjoy guns, but living with guns in the home, they needed to understand how to deal with them. To the point now, like my son, who's almost 15, I took him and a bunch of seniors. He's a freshman in high school, but it's a small high school, so all the boys are friends. So we took a bunch of other boys in the community who are seniors shooting. These guys are like 6'1" kids, or and they're getting on the range and they're bam, 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 and not great groupings. It's the first time, and then my son, who's as short as me, he's smaller right now, and he gets up there and they're like, oh, let's see what the Pew Pew Jr. can do, And my son...
Hey, that's a good name right there, the Pew Pew Jr.
I sell shirts on my website.
Trademark that.
Yeah, right? So literally he gets up there and he just... And
dominates.
Nice.
and all these kids are like, okay, so you're the freshman that will not get trashed or swirlied in bathroom, Like, we're not going near you. But it's something that I've taught my kids from a young age. And something else that I taught my kids from a young age, one of my other books is called 27 Words, which is a breakdown of the 27 words of the Second Amendment. The reason why I wrote that one is we can all take kids or, nieces, nephews, we can take them all shooting, and they can become the next John Wick. Mm-hmm. That's all great and dandy. However, why are we doing that? Right? We're doing it because we have the Second Amendment. We're doing it because we have the ability to defend ourselves against tyranny. So my book breaks down for children the 27 words of the Second Amendment, what the Founding Fathers intended. Not, I'm not putting like, well, some people say if you put the comma here, like, no, screw that. This is what the book is. It's the Founding Fathers' original intent of what the Second Amendment is supposed to mean. And it takes you through history, talking about everything. And that's, one of the other books I wrote, so that it specifically, again, we can teach them to be John Wick, but you need to teach them to love the Second Amendment. Otherwise, who cares if they're great shots?
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw an interview, I think it was with Revolt TV that you did fairly recently, or maybe a year ago. And you mentioned that...
I don't even remember.
Well, it was a great interview.
Thank you.
You were amazing. But in the interview, you mentioned that you've done some advocacy work in the Second Amendment community, specifically with Campus Carry. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, what I've done is I'm on the board of directors for the Second Amendment Institute. And what they do is they deal a lot with Campus Carry or trying to get more education on campus for students to be able to carry. So I'm kind of the behind the scenes there. Mm-hmm. I'm good friends with Antonia Okafor, who she led the charge to get Campus Carry passed. in 2000, like, what was it, 14, 15, something like that. So I've never, you have to understand, I've only been in the industry for 7 years, and I started off doing really children's books, which turned into Advocacy, which turned into what you see today. So I've kind of done a lot of little things. My campus carry stuff has just been more of an assist to other names who are really the people who were the movers and shakers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But great that you're an activist and trying to get involved in that kind of stuff, obviously.
Yeah,
it's a worthy cause.
Yeah, I will get involved in any Second Amendment activism as long as it's we're talking about pro absolute 2A stuff. I'm not into the negotiation for our rights. I do not like that. I think there's too much at stake to negotiate at this point.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Can you explain what you mean by negotiation for your rights?
Meaning, I'm not gonna give any of our Second Amendment rights away. I hate bump stocks. I've used them. I think they're stupid and pointless. But if you want to use it, you use it. I'm not gonna try to take away that right of yours to use it.
Yeah.
I will fight for your right to use it. I won't use one, but I will fight for your right to use one. So that's what I mean. Like, I'm not gonna give an inch, they take a mile, right?
Absolutely.
I won't give an inch.
Yeah.
I will not negotiate or give up 1 inch of the Second Amendment.
We have the exact same philosophy at our law firm, which is that if you're a competent, reasonable adult and you're not hurting anybody, you should have whatever you want to have. And we feel that way on all issues, not just guns.
Yeah, I mean, I have my Jewish space laser for sale on my website. I can't say
a tinfoil yarmulke.
I can't say that I haven't used it, but I have a couple in my arsenal. So
one last subject I wanted to hit with you before we let you go. I wanted to get your position on this, and you told us before the podcast nothing's off limits. So fire away. I want to get your perspective as a Jewish American about how you've been dealing in the aftermath of October 7th of 2023. You mentioned that you're the subject of anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, Holocaust jokes, people trying to be malicious toward you. Have you noticed an uptick in any of that since in the recent events? What's your thoughts on everything?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's very hard to see 1,200 civilians being killed, men, women, and children, who were peacefully at a music festival, and then it was a Jewish holiday that day, so they were, spending time with family. I mean, it's difficult to see. I have family over in Israel. I have a couple cousins who are fighting in the war. It's hard. It's rough to see, but my big thing is there's a difference between all the Hamas hate there, which has now transported to America, and you see tons of pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas gatherings and
all the campus protests going on right now. Yeah.
So my big focus is there's a lot of people doing great things for Israel and stuff like that. My focus is arming Jews. My focus is to educate them, to get them armed, to ensure that they continue the training, so that they don't need to call you guys. Right. So that's my main focus right now. Is people with ARs don't get in cattle cars, right? So it's just one of those things that there's tyranny, whether it's government tyranny, whether it's anti-Semitic tyranny, it's here. And we have to be vigilant, we have to be on top of it, and we have to make sure that Jews, and not just Jews, right? Anyone is safe. Any freedom-loving American is safe from the hatred that we see. So, I mean, even the Hamas protests are mixed with Black Lives Matter, and so these
everything kind of overlaps,
yeah. And it's not just affecting Jews; it's affecting America as a whole. And unless we all just band together to fight it, whether it's in the courts, whether it's in the ballot box, or whether it goes to the streets, who knows what's going to happen. We need to be prepared, and that's what I've been trying to do.
At the risk of sounding really cliche right now, I think a big thing that could move us towards that unity and getting past this divide that we have in our country is humor. I wish that people would return to a sense of humor about every subject that we encounter isn't the end of the world. Every subject that we encounter isn't an existential crisis that our country is facing, and I feel like it's just so overblown in the media, and everything's an existential crisis.
No, 100%, but that's why I said earlier, right? You find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to, is like, not everything is an attack. What I like to tell people is, the difference is and don't get offended, when women talk to women, right, they'll always say nice things in front of you, right? And it's not a blanket statement for all those watching. Just chill, right?
You're gonna get us in trouble with our female viewers.
Right? No, but in reality, a lot of times you see women will be nice to other women in their face, but then talk trash behind their back, right?
He's right.
Right? but guys,
I'll cop to it.
Right? But
Confirmed.
But guys will talk massive trash to each other,
your face, yeah.
and then behind the back,
Be like, he's a cool guy.
He's a great guy, right? And again, but that's what we have to do, is not talk. Like, let's talk it out in front of each other and try to find common ground.
Yeah.
Now, we might not find common ground, but as long as we have a mutual respect for, okay, that's your opinion, this is my opinion, great. It's that simple.
Conversation, civility.
A conversation, right.
Civility.
Unfortunately, you can't do that nowadays, you know? I'll say, hey, I like golden retrievers. Well, why don't you like black labs? Are you racist? Like, what? I'm saying it's that kind of stupidity that's killing the country.
Yeah.
And it's
What's the way around talking to people who are unreasonable? I mean, how do you find to be the most effective method of taking somebody who has an unreasonable position like that and bringing them to common sense?
I mean, you talk to them, and if you see that it's not going anywhere, kill them with kindness, or kill them with humor. You know, like I told you, right? If you are dealing with someone that you know, first, if you're dealing with someone that you know you're not going to reach an agreement with, or even be able to have a civil conversation, it's not even worth your time.
Right.
It's just not. However, if you have someone that you're dealing with that you can't reach an agreement with, but they're being really nasty, I mean, you can do fun stuff, right? Getting worked up and angry, that's what they want. So like I told you, right? I have this meme that I designed, and whenever I get Holocaust jokes or anti-Semitism thrown my way, it's literally a picture from Getty Images of Hitler saluting. And under the salute, it says, "I've had it up to here with your insensitive jokes."
with the
Yeah, that's like, I've had it up to here with your insensitive jokes. And again, like you kill them with that, right? Like, because you make them feel so
That's
dumb.
totally disarming.
It's
like
disarming.
How do they come back from
I
that?
bet that
They
shuts
can't.
them up.
It shuts
Yeah.
them up. But then there's those people who, you know, I have friends who are rabidly anti-gun, but they still come over to our house and they're like, yeah, you know, we get it. We don't like them. We wish they were gone.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's missing among my age group. I'm a millennial, and a lot of people my age, if you have just like one little belief, they find it so offensive that it's the end of the world, can't even associate with someone like you. And I see that among, you know, people I went to law school with. They just can't believe that I'm, you know, involved in the gun community. They think, they act like I'm responsible for all the things people have done bad with a gun. And it's interesting, I think we're kind of losing that in the United States, that ability to separate, you know, political beliefs or advocacy from just someone's personality and being able to live as a community.
No, 100%. And I'll tell you, it's a conversation my wife and I always have. Based on our conversation, this is not me putting on the show. This is actually how I am with my wife and kids too. So you can pity them. But my wife always like, you can't say that to the kids. When they're older, they are going to be so messed up. And I turn to my wife, I'm like, are you kidding me? Our kids are going to be so well adjusted to the real world and so mentally healthy, because growing up, they had to deal with a dad who was so politically incorrect that they might disagree with it, but they are going to have a leg up on anyone they are in competition at school with or you know, a job with. Because they'll be like, yeah, it's easy.
They'll have
like,
thicker skin than other people too, right? They'll be able to interact with the real world, and everything's not a crisis.
Everything's not a crisis, and that's my goal. And my wife is like, no. And then, you know, my son, he's on a school trip now, and he like calls my wife. He's like, this was yesterday. He's like, oh, we just played frisbee in the rain, lightning, and thunder for 2.5 hours. And my wife is like, why would you do that? You were gonna die. And I'm like, hey bud, how was it? He goes, it was awesome.
Amazing.
I'm like, did you have to dodge lightning bolts? He goes, felt like it. And I'm like, and my wife is like, why? And I'm like, because he's enjoying it. He's not. Oh.
Well, this is the difference between women and men right here.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm freaking out just listening to that.
No, 100%. That too.
All right, everybody. We've been talking to Yehuda Remer, and you guys know him better as the Pew Pew Jew. Yehuda, anything else you want to plug, or we can put links in the description? Anything else at all?
No, you can follow me across social media at the Pew Pew Jew. My website's thepewpewjew.com, and We got a lot of fun T-shirts, hoodies, mugs. You can get signed copies of my books. Father's Day is right around the corner, so
Makes a great gift right there.
Great gag gift for your dad, whether he's pro-gun or anti-gun.
Yeah.
It's actually funnier if he's anti-gun.
Yeah, it's better if it's anti-gun.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast,
Absolutely.
man. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having
Everybody
me.
go and check out attorneys on retainer.us to learn all about our program. Check out attorneysforfreedom.com to learn about our law firm. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment down below. Until next time, this is attorney Andy Marcantel, attorney Rachel Moss, and our guest, Yehuda Remer, signing out. Peace.